I'm drowning in memories that aren't mine, choking on centuries of darkness as my consciousness splinters. The ancient stone walls of the well press in around me, slick with something that isn't water. I scrape my fingernails against the stone until they break, screaming into blackness that swallows sound. What's happening isn't physically possible. I'm simultaneously looking up at a circle of night sky from the bottom of the well, and also standing at its edge, looking down at my own face in the water. But that face isn't mine anymore. It's changing, features shifting into something that has never been human. The thing wearing my skin smiles up at me with too many teeth, and I realize, with perfect, crystalline horror, that we've swapped places. I'm trapped down here now, and it's free to walk away in my body. And the worst part, this has all happened before, countless times across the centuries. 3 weeks ago, I signed the papers on 5 acres of rural property 2 hours outside the city. The real estate agent seemed oddly relieved when I took it off her hands. The place had been listed for years with no takers despite the reasonable price. I didn't care. After my divorce, I needed somewhere quiet to rebuild my life. Somewhere with history and character, unlike the sterile apartment Helen and I had shared. The old farmhouse was a fixer-upper, but that was the point. I'd have a project to lose myself in. The land around it had gone wild. Tangled underbrush and volunteer trees reclaiming what had once been cleared fields. "You got to steal," the agent said, handing me the keys, though something in her expression didn't match her words. "Just stick to the cleared areas until you can get someone to help with the back acreage." I nodded, not really listening, already planning renovations in my head. I spent the first week clearing brambles and saplings from what must have once been the garden. The late June heat pressed down like a wool blanket, sweat trickling down my spine as I hacked away at stubborn roots. That's when my blade struck stone instead of dirt. Curious, I cleared more vines, revealing a circular stone structure about 4 feet high. An old well, moss-covered stones fitted together with remarkable precision. No mortar I could see. Oddly, no mention of a well had appeared in the property records. I brushed away decades of leaves and debris from its sealed top. A heavy capstone fitted perfectly over the opening. Something made me pause before trying to move it. A sudden silence had fallen over the property. No birds, no insects, just the sound of my own breathing. My hand on the stone felt wrong somehow, like touching something fever-hot. Still, curiosity won out. That night, I couldn't sleep. The farmhouse creaked and settled, but underneath those ordinary noises ran something else. A sound almost like breathing coming from outside. I told myself it was just the wind in the trees, but the air was still. The darkness in my bedroom seemed somehow thicker than normal darkness should be. Every time I started to drift off, I'd jerk awake, convinced someone was standing beside my bed. A persistent thirst plagued me, though I'd already drunk 3 glasses of water. Around 3 a.m., I got up to get another glass. Standing at the kitchen sink, I glanced out the window. The moon illuminated the garden where I'd uncovered the well. Something was different. Had I left the capstone slightly ajar? A thin tendril of mist seemed to be rising from the small opening. I blinked, and it was gone. Sleep deprivation, I told myself. Nothing more. The nightmare began like swimming up through black water. I found myself crouching in perfect darkness, fingers tracing cold stone walls in a circular pattern. Thirst clawed at my throat like I'd swallowed glass. How long had I been down here? Decades, centuries. Time had no meaning in this prison. Above me, a circle of night sky appeared as someone moved the stone lid. A face peered down. A woman in colonial dress, her expression twisted with determination and fear. She began speaking words in a language I somehow understood, despite never having heard it before. "You will stay bound here until the end of days," she intoned, "forgotten by all." Hatred surged through me, but it wasn't my hatred. Something was using my emotions, borrowing my consciousness. I woke, gasping, sheets soaked with sweat, the taste of stagnant water in my mouth. Every detail of the dream remained sharply clear, unlike ordinary dreams that fade upon waking. I drove to the County Historical Society the next morning, desperate for explanations. The elderly volunteer seemed unsurprised when I mentioned my property address. "The old Madsen place," she said, voice dropping slightly. "Interesting history there." She disappeared into a back room, returning with a thin file and several local history books. The property's official records were oddly incomplete. Originally settled in 1796, the land had changed hands 23 times, an unusually high number. More disturbing were the gaps, periods where ownership remained unrecorded for years at a time. "Local superstition," the volunteer said, noticing my expression. "Nothing to put stock in." But her eyes said otherwise. As I flipped through a book of regional folklore, a phrase leapt out: "The thirsty one of Madsen's well." The entry was brief, just a warning never to unseal old wells without proper rituals of containment. That night, thirst woke me hourly. The dreams intensified. Each night, I experience another fragment of imprisoned existence. I'm trapped in the well, but I'm not me. I'm something ancient that was already old when humans first walked these lands. I feel the rage of centuries, the patient hunger of something that can wait forever if needed. In last night's dream, I watched through the thing's awareness as different faces appeared at the well's opening across time. Colonial settlers, Victorian farmers, 1950s homeowners. Each time, the same pattern. Curiosity leads to investigation, leads to disturbance, and then opportunity. I feel how it reaches out, touches their minds while they sleep, shares its endless thirst. This morning, I woke clawing at my own throat, desperately thirsty despite drinking water all night. Worse, I found myself standing in the garden beside the well. The heavy capstone moved several inches to one side. I have no memory of going outside. My skin is changing. It started as dryness, cracked lips, flaking patches on my hands and face. Now the cracks are deeper, a network of fissures that sometimes seep a clear fluid. The mirror shows a face I barely recognize, eyes sunken and dark-ringed, cheekbones too prominent. I've lost 15 pounds in 10 days despite constant hunger. But it's the thirst that's unbearable. A deep, primal need no amount of water satisfies. Last night, I caught myself in the bathroom drinking directly from the faucet for nearly 20 minutes. When I finally stopped, my stomach distended with water. I looked up into the mirror and for a split second saw something else looking back. A face made of darkness with eyes like wells into the earth. I dropped my glass, and as it shattered against the tile, I swear the broken pieces briefly reflected a night sky no longer visible outside my window. The local library's basement archives yielded what the Historical Society wouldn't. A journal from Elizabeth Madsen, dated 1796. Her handwriting grew increasingly frantic as the entries progressed. "The well was here when we arrived," she wrote. "The natives warned us never to remove its seal, said their ancestors trapped a thirsty spirit there long ago, one that would wear a person's skin like clothing to escape." Later entries described her husband's deterioration after he unsealed the well: insatiable thirst, personality changes, talking to himself in an unknown language. The final entry chilled me. "I have bound it again at great cost. The ritual required blood, but Thomas was already gone, his body just a vessel. I pray it holds another 100 years." Driving home, I passed a roadside historical marker I'd never noticed before. Site of the Madsen tragedy, 1796. Sole survivor. Elizabeth Madsen reported her husband was taken by the well. I no longer know where my thoughts end and his thoughts begin. We share consciousness in fragments, memories of ancient forests that stood where this farm now exists, knowledge of stars in patterns different from today's sky. It's been here since before humans, hibernating in underground springs until settlers dug this well, breaking into its resting place. Now it shows me its memories freely, previous owners it has influenced and eventually replaced, walking away in their bodies while their consciousness remained trapped in the well. I should be terrified, but instead I feel a strange sympathy. To be imprisoned for centuries, alone in the dark, wouldn't anyone seek escape? Last night, I found myself standing over the well at midnight, my hands working to remove the capstone entirely despite my mind screaming to stop. My body no longer feels entirely my own. It's making space for something else. My hands move with purpose I don't direct, gathering materials from around the property, certain stones, plants I somehow recognize, though I've never studied botany. I've stopped fighting the compulsion. Part of me wants to flee, but another part, a voice that grows louder each day, whispers that we can share this body, that I needn't be afraid. The ritual requires specific timing, midnight during the dark moon, 3 days from now. Water drawn from the well mixed with my blood, words in a language that my tongue now knows how to form. I should call someone, ask for help, but when I try to reach for my phone, my hand refuses to obey. Last night, I drove to the hardware store and bought rope, a flashlight, and a hand mirror, though I have no memory of deciding to do this. The purchase feels significant, preparation for something momentous. Tomorrow night, I will descend into the well. I'm drowning in memories that aren't mine, choking on centuries of darkness as my consciousness splinters. The ancient stone walls of the well press in around me, slick with something that isn't water. I scrape my fingernails against the stone until they break, screaming into blackness that swallows sound. What's happening isn't physically possible. I'm simultaneously looking up at a circle of night sky from the bottom of the well, and also standing at its edge, looking down at my own face in the water. But that face isn't mine anymore. It's changing, features shifting into something that has never been human. The thing wearing my skin smiles up at me with too many teeth, and I realize with perfect crystalline horror that we've swapped places. I'm trapped down here now, and it's free to walk away in my body. And the worst part, I can feel the memories of all the others it has done this to across centuries. Their consciousness still here, still aware. The transition completes with a sensation like tearing silk. No, not I anymore. It looks down at the well where my consciousness now resides alongside all the others. Looking through my former eyes, it flexes my fingers experimentally, enjoying the sensation of fresh skin, not yet dried and cracked by exposure to air. My mouth forms words I don't direct. Your turn to wait. It knows exactly how long the binding will last. One human lifetime, until the next curious owner discovers the well and begins the cycle again. Already my memories are being absorbed and catalogued. It will need them to pass as me. It will sell this property quickly, move somewhere populous where no one knows me, and finally experience the world after centuries of imprisonment. As it turns to walk away in my body, I feel myself settling into the ancient darkness, joining the chorus of trapped minds. Another consciousness brushes against mine, the previous owner, whispering, "It gets easier after the first 100 years." Don't face the horrors alone. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this video. And if you want your nightmare seen, email it to stories@hallowcroft.com.